next fight, Bryce Mitchell versus Charles Rosa. Now, when I did the breakdown for this, I got to clarify something that I said. I said sometimes the purple belt will catch the black belt when I did the breakdown, right? I was not implying that Bryce Mitchell was a purple belt. I actually didn't know what rank he was. I saw that he was a brown belt on some Wikipedia articles, so that's kind of like what I went into it assuming. What I meant when I made that comparison, all I meant was Charles Rosa is a black belt, an established one. He's been a black belt for about 4 years now. So I believe, and I'm not sure, I don't know, Bryce Mitchell has his black belt now, I'm pretty sure, based on the comments that I saw on the channel. I'm not positive exactly when he got it. I don't know. I think probably more recently than Charles Rosa did. So all I meant was when I said that, sometimes you'll see the lesser experienced grappler, in terms of time they spend on the mat, they can catch guys and stuff. Like, there are guys who are just, sometimes you get like a purple belt who's just an animal, man, and he's going to catch black belts and things. And it's not like he's going to catch them religiously. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes they will get them. It's rare that it happens, but sometimes you get these guys. Like, all I was trying to say is that I felt like Charles Rosa had probably maybe a little bit of an advantage on the ground going into the fight. And I thought that Bryce might be able to combat some of that with being more creative. But I was 100% wrong. Bryce didn't just go in there and like look competitive against Rosa. He fucking embarrassed him, man. I mean, I don't mean, no disrespect to Charles Rosa. I don't mean it that way. But I mean, Bryce completely mauled him, disrespected him. The top pressure that he was putting on was very Habib-esque, trying to triangle the legs, the way he wrapped him up, got him up against the cage, and then worked his way into position. He was always getting into mount and looking for the arm triangle for mount, and then transitioning from that to the twister constantly. Those were the only two things he was looking for. And the twister doesn't get pulled off very often. And the fact that Bryce Mitchell was able to work himself into that position so religiously is just a testament to how fucking good his jiu-jitsu is, man. And I'll tell you what, if you watch Bryce Mitchell fight Charles Rosa last night, that's not the same Bryce Mitchell that fought fucking Bobby Moffett. And that's not the same Bryce Mitchell that fought Brad Katona and got tapped out in the Contender Series. This is a whole new guy. And it's crazy because he has so much fucking faith in Arkansas. And I think he definitely picks up on things from other, like, the twister, I mean, Eddie Bravo shit, right? 10th Planet. He's willing to learn and absorb things. But he's very committed to his home camp, and he's making these massive, massive strides in between every fight. I mean, don't get me wrong, man. I thought I gave the edge to Rosa going in. I thought it would be competitive and that Bryce might be able to win some positional battles, but it was just pure and utter domination. I mean, Rosa couldn't do anything. There was nothing that Rosa offered that even ever made me feel like Bryce was in danger. Even when he was getting through some escapes and I thought there might be some scrambles, Bryce would just put the pressure on him, flatten him back out, and just stay on top and do what he wanted to do with them. He was constantly ahead of him on the transitions, and it was just, I mean, if you're the featherweight division right now and you're seeing what Bryce Mitchell just did to a legitimate black belt and a guy who, I mean, controlled Yair Rodriguez on the ground, you gotta be thinking like, fuck, man, this is a real problem coming up here at 145, and he's young. He's young. He's only gonna get better. Bryce Mitchell, after that performance, I don't know how you can't be excited about him in the featherweight division, man. As far as what's next, I don't know. The featherweight division is sort of a weird spot, right? Because you've got, I think your top two guys are probably, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we get to Cater and Stevens, but your top two guys right now, outside of Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, who I think will probably likely rematch, are probably Brian Ortega and Zabit. After that, I think you got Cater throwing his hat into the ring after the performance last night. But staying on track with Bryce Mitchell, I think that he's probably ready to crack the top 15. I mean, like I said, that wasn't just a win. That was a fucking... It was unreal, man. I mean, every round was a 10-8. In my opinion, there was not a single moment that Charles Rosa offered anything. So, you know what fight really intrigues me when I look at the rankings? Ryan Hall. If you see what Bryce just did and also consider, like, Bryce has good stand-up. I just think that he went in there kind of with a point to prove because Rosa was saying he was going to take an arm home with him, and I think Bryce just was like, okay, we'll fucking see about that, and he proved him wrong. But don't forget that Bryce didn't even really get to display it in that fight, but has really fucking good striking too. Really crisp, really creative. He's got some great side kicks. He's got great length. He's got great movement. And you just got to see one piece of Bryce Mitchell's game last night, and It was very dominant. It's scary. It's scary how quickly he's able to learn and adapt. I like a fight with Ryan Hall. I think that's a good. I think it's just so interesting. A lot of guys are trying to dodge him. Uh, it, if he could go in there and get a win against a guy like that, it would do so much more to, I mean, cement. Because Ryan Hall is a jiu-jitsu fucking wizard, man. His triangle setups and his everything, especially off of his back. And if you saw like what Bryce was doing, a lot of it was relying on pressure, right? So you'll get to see if he can deal with a guy who works really well off of his back. Can he do the same thing? And don't forget, going into that fight, I would imagine that Bryce Mitchell has a little bit of an edge on the feet. So if he can get a specialist, that does a lot for his name. And then you might start talking about him moving into like the top 10 fights after that if he can beat a guy like Ryan Hall. A lot of people don't want to fight Ryan Hall, man. His submission game is fucking nasty.